The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the owner, staff, or management of this radio station.
Motherhood Incorporated proudly presents Military Mom Talk Radio live on TogiNet.com. Co-hosted by Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, the owner of Motherhood Incorporated. Military Mom Talk Radio is here with a powerful platform for women to discuss their ideas, issues, and concerns with respect to the military lifestyle. Military Mom Talk Radio encourages you to share your experiences of being a military wife and mother. This show is dedicated to educating your family about the many resources that are available in both the public and private sector. And we'll be sharing helpful information from women all over the world. We'll cover everything military, from helping a family member cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, to navigating government programs dealing with family issues, to the struggles of deployment, along with being a working mother both in and out of the home. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, Military Moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we got a barn burner up here, Rob. It's so hot. It's like 100 degrees. I'm dying.
Oh, my gosh. I read that on Facebook. Somebody else on Facebook posted like at 5:30 this morning how hot it was, and I thought, oh, my goodness. And I've honestly, Sandra, I've got my polar fleece on right now. We've got a little chill in today's air. It's just the difference of 3,000 miles.
You know, it was cold last week, and then it got hot, and then everybody got sick, and it's just that wacky Southern California spring weather where it can be anywhere from 59 degrees and rainy, like it was 5 days ago, to 110. And I will tell you, a temperature swing of 60 degrees is a little much even for me.
Oh, my gosh, that is hard on your body. The kids feel it. The adults feel it. Everybody must be miserable out there. How are the roads today? Everybody cranky?
Oh, yeah. Cranky. And, I went to a restaurant and had some lunch because I met a friend for lunch before I went over to the elementary school. And, he pulls up in this black car, and I'm like, God, what are you, in the kill box? It's like black leather. They're black, and he's sweating. He's like, I had the air conditioning going on full bore. And he's like, I'm in the kill box. And I'm like, what you are? Because I think you have a shelf life. I know milk has a shelf life of like 15 minutes, if that, in a black car in 100 degrees heat with the sun blasting.
I used to, even up here, though, in the summertime, I would bring a cooler in my car. Our store was just that far away. It was about 20 minutes away, I would say. And I would bring a cooler and just put the chicken, the hamburg, the milk, all of that kind of thing, So, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to one of our shows that we had like 4 years ago or 4.5 years ago with First Sergeant Hoffman when he was trying to do Wounded Warriors, remember, from the car, and the helicopters were doing maneuvers, and then he couldn't run the air conditioning.
What a good sport he was. And you were doing the same thing one day. You were on the side of the road somewhere in the car. You got stuck in traffic.
Was awful. I got stuck in traffic, and I had to wire my computer to broadcast from to do the show. That's the one the policeman... I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm on the air. Policeman, you can't give me a ticket. He's like, what are you doing in here?
I wanted so badly for you to just kind of put your microphone thing up and say, hello, you're on the air. And have this guy on national radio while he's got you pulled over there. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my wacky sense of humor.
It was. Well, but that's like the whole can-do military attitude. It's like, okay, I got 5 lanes, bumper to bumper. I can see the medevac chopper. We're going to be here for 3 hours, so I inched my minivan over because everybody gets out of my way. I will tell you, a big red minivan, with all these California sports cars, get out of my way, and I got off and, pulled over under a tree and got a good Wi-Fi signal and did my show until the police came. same.
That's funny. Well, down in Massachusetts, I mean, you see these real beater cars, and they've got dents and no hubcaps, and you get out of their way on Storrow Drive because they don't care.
That's right. Beat up car, hormonal mom in a minivan with screaming kids. Either way, get out of the way.
That's it, exactly. Oh, we do what we got to do. There's so many, whether you're a mom or a dad who's taking care of kids, you know what? You just do what you got to do.
Yeah, well, and that's a lot of what our topic is today with our guest we're bringing on, Dr. Jody Bremer. We're going to talk about how different people relate to the same stressful situation. And today we're going to talk about deployment, and we can talk about how it differs for a mom, a dad, a spouse, a kid, a brother and sister, because it's all the same situation, but everybody relates to it so differently. And I'm so excited not only to have you on as my co-host, Rob, but to have Stephen on, because Stephen Boyd, our veteran correspondent, went through deployment issues, and, Rob, you went together with him, and I can't wait to get your feedback, because the more we share about the family dynamic of deployment and reintegration, I think the better off we all are.
Oh, absolutely. We weren't married when he was deployed, but I did talk to his mom actually today. And what's kind of different, too, is exposing, I guess you could say, the differences in the wars because of course, in World War II, everybody was proud. They said, you're going to just buck up, bite the bullet, and you're going to go, and everyone is going to be proud, and the country's just going to march right along with you. And then, of course, in Stephen's War, we had a lot of other societal issues, and we had a lot of controversy, and it was a much more difficult war. And I think siblings and family members all reacted so differently because you had the concern of your loved one being over there. You had the concern because you didn't hear from them frequently. They probably couldn't write back the way most times they do write back. Then back home, you had the issue of whether or not to even let people know you had a loved one over there because of what society did to you just being home. I mean, even when we had Steve's mom on, I don't remember if you remember, but I mean, people were spitting on the sidewalk while she was walking down in her center of town. That's the kind of sort of bullying that went on top of the worry of having a loved one being over there. And now we have a completely different dynamic that everything is so transparent. Everybody sees daily what goes on over there. So think of the impact of the children watching and Skyping with their parents and knowing where they are, or siblings or whoever it is that they love that's over there, and the transparency that we have with the media coverage now. That's a whole different kind of dynamic that our families have to face.
It really is. With this one specific family that wrote into us to tackle this issue, the mom brought up a really good point about her son was, 10 years old when the war started. Now he's 20. He's being deployed. He's grown up with this. And, he's seen everything that's going on. And then he's got little siblings, who are just, it's just a different dynamic. And, our war has dragged on for so long now that, in some respects it's become commonplace. But, when my friends first, were deployed in the beginning, it was like, rah, 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 Toby Keith, go, 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 kind of thing. And now it's so different because it's just different. And I can't wait to talk to Jody about this because I think, we did a deployment show a couple years ago, along the same thing, but things have changed.
Yes, things have changed an awful lot, and I think sometimes for the good, and sometimes, as I was saying, because of the transparency, maybe not so good. Not only, like you say, things have gone on for quite some time now, and maybe we aren't sending as many letters over. Maybe we aren't remembering to donate to the to people who are sending care packages over. We do have to, it's the same with blood drives. When there's a big major catastrophe, everybody runs to donate blood, and then all of a sudden we forget, we'll do it next month. Well, we'll do it next month, and then all of a sudden we're in a real dire need for those supplies because people have kind of put it off. So with Memorial Day coming up, I'm hoping that people are not only remembering those who have fallen, but remembering all soldiers, whether they're home, whether they're in Marines. I shouldn't say soldiers. That's my error. I'm sorry. All military personnel. You know, Sandra, did you know what Memorial Day was called before it was called Memorial Day?
You know, I'm ashamed to say that I marched in all these parades with my flute and held the banner, and I have no idea.
Well, you know what? I've asked somebody else who is very good in history, and they weren't sure either. It was called Decoration Day.
Oh.
Yep. And after the Civil War, there were, in the late 1860s, Americans from various towns and cities began to hold springtime tributes. And then it evolved so that it was actually declared in 1866 a Decoration Day, so that people would go decorate the graves with flowers or mementos. And then when it was chosen to be on May 30th, that date was actually chosen because there were no other, it was no anniversary of any particular battle. So it was a loose date as far as battle history was concerned. So, and then it began to evolve into Memorial Day later on. I think it was in 1968 when Congress finally passed the Uniform Monday holiday, and now that's kind of where it all evolved. So I went onto the History Channel website, and I was kind of intrigued with all of this. I thought it was pretty cool.
I do too, because, you know, it's one of those things we take for granted, you know, like saying our prayers, and we don't even think about what we're saying.
Well, they changed it. It said in the article they changed it from Decoration Day to Memorial Day because apparently Decoration Day was so specific to the Civil War, and they wanted, after World War I, to make sure that all fallen soldiers were remembered, not only from the Civil War. So that's our little tidbit from the History Channel. I love watching the History Channel. They have so many interesting things. Well, you know, we are coming up to the break, Sandra. We've got Jody Bremer on the other side of our break. We've had Jody on so many times, and she always has such interesting points of view to talk to us about, and we have to make sure that we remind you to always tune in to our podcast to hear our past ones at militarymomtalkradio.com. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with Jody Bremer.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life. And the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network. We'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network. Attention parents and teachers. Here is a series of alarming yet true facts about the current state of teaching reading in the United States. The federal government has spent close to $500 billion to improve reading ability, and yet we still have over 8 million students who cannot read on grade level. 440,000 students who have a total reading vocabulary of 50 words or less, and a national dropout rate of 1 new student every 26 seconds. Sadly, one of these could be yours. Fortunately, it's not too late to help. Introducing The Reading Show with Dr. Joe, a fast-paced, highly informative, easy-to-listen-to show led by nationally recognized reading authority, Dr. Joe Lakovich. For more on Joe and the show, check out his website, failurefreeonline.com. Listen in this week to learn amazingly simple ways to turn this problem around. The Reading Show with Dr. Joe, with your host, Dr. Joe Lakovich, Fridays at 10 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
We'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd, and we have got a very, very important show today, I believe. Rob, we got a letter from a listener that really spawned the whole concept of today's show, and she has a son, early 20s, who's going off to deployment, and they have a very, very large family. I think they got 10 kids or something like that. And she was struggling because she said things like, you know, her husband's just kind of buried himself in his work, and they have a couple other boys that have served, so they're kind of cool with it or down with it. There's not any friction there, but the little ones, they're like tuning into their video games, and then there's a couple daughters, and one of the daughters is AWOL, and she doesn't want to talk about it, and then the other one is upset, and the serviceman in particular, the one who's being deployed, he like had this freak out and like broke up with his girlfriend of a long time, and you know, it's just we have a mess in Maple Leaf Garden is how I would say it when I was growing up. But there's fighting all over the place, and this young man is supposed to leave, you know, in a couple weeks, and she's really suffering, and her whole family is suffering, and I'm so thankful that Dr. Jody Bremer can come on and shed some light on this topic, because there's so much out there about the spouse. You know, the wife is left behind. How does she cope? You know, but the girlfriend's kind of left out, and, you know, there's some stuff on the kids, but, you know, there's really not a whole lot about, like, the brothers and sisters and the aunts and the uncles. You know, it's like a systemic family problem when somebody deploys if they don't have, like, systems in place on how to handle it or what to expect. And so I'm just so excited to have Jody here, because she's going to fix everything. I know it.
Well,
Hi, Jody.
No pressure. Gee, let me solve all the world's problems. No, honestly, the letter that your listener sent, did she say specifically what she was referring to?
You mean that about everything being a mess?
Yes.
Yeah.
What
she
aspect
said that she felt really controlling. She didn't want to leave any of her kids out of her sight, and the son had a big fight with the girlfriend, and he's like, you know, I don't want to have the responsibility of you over there and talking to everybody, and she just said everybody's fighting in their family dynamic, and it's really stressful, and her husband's kind of like pulled out of the whole mix, and he's staying in the office late, and, you know, she said she can see how all the family members are dealing individually with their own reaction to this or whatever is going on, but she's like, it seems to have taken their whole family dynamic and put it off kilter.
Wow, it sounds like each individual person in there is feeling one of the stages, one of the feelings that are so often attached to pre-deployment. There's an entire pre-deployment stage that includes fear, anger, denial, resentment, excitement, and guilt that not only does everybody feel kind of a mix of all of those feelings, but it's common for one person to feel like the mother might feel specifically fearful about losing the military member, or the spouse or the girlfriend might even feel some guilt at feeling relief of this person going and giving them speech. There's all sorts of possibilities of interactions and multiple feelings that people are wrestling with inside of them. Often it's common to think, what am I going to do without him or her? And I can't believe they're actually leaving. And how in the world am I going to cope with the kids? How am I going to cope with this? How am I going to cope with the bills? To all the other side of, I wish they'd already leave so I could get on with my life. And it may be that sometimes you have this clutch, like this push-pull, don't leave me, get out of here kind of thing. And it often leads to fights and conflicts because, as we've talked about on other shows, it's very common to want to push away somebody who is going to be the source of pain, whether it's the military person who has his mind wrapped around doing what they need to do to get over there and do their job and not wanting to have to deal with the family left behind, to the family members thinking, you know what, this is just too hard to have you here and not focused, not with me. I'd rather be angry at you and have you go than stay here and have me miss you while you're still here. So all of those feelings are so common, the push-pull, and it can be with the family members too, especially if you're particularly close with a sibling. Say you're a sister or brother left behind and somebody is going over there. You could have all sorts of conflicted feelings, and the children are dealing with what they're dealing with. The parents are dealing with what they're dealing with, and the interactions between the people left back here. It's like Christmas on speed as far as the emotions and the relationships left behind. It's almost a relief for the military person to get out of there and just focus on what they need to do, but people don't realize what a mess it leaves for the people back home.
But for everybody, everybody's got, it seems like with this lady and her large family, you know, do you think all the way down to, you know, her little one, I think was 12 or 13 years old, you know, just old enough to kind of be cognizant of the change that's happening. But is it typical for like a husband and wife, like parents of deployed soldiers, to deal with it like completely differently or independently and then fight between the two of them?
Oh, completely. It could have something to do with the way that the individuals were raised. Maybe the father, in this case, wasn't meant to show emotions, but that doesn't mean he doesn't feel them. So he goes to work. He dives into work. He separates himself from the family because he doesn't even want to consider spending some time with himself and realizing, I'm going to miss my son, I'm worried about him, I don't want to share this with anybody because I don't want to be less than a man, I don't want to look like I'm not manly, and he's going to be tough and he's going to be fine, to fighting with the wife for being mother-like and maybe voicing, oh, I'm going to miss my baby, and he's having to be gruff and he's having to hold the family together, and it does present a conflict. And then when the wife sees the husband not acting in a certain way or not supporting her, or he sees her in a way that he's not able to be and release the emotions that he feels, of course there's going to be conflict. They're going to fight amongst themselves because what they're dealing with is the grief of their child leaving and going into harm's way. And that's a very scary thing. And they've got to wrestle with it within themselves, and they've got to deal with it in the context of their own relationship, not to mention having to deal with the siblings and the children that are left behind.
Yeah, well, and I was reading her letter a little bit while you were talking, and she said what was interesting, or what she's struggling with too, Jody, is that this isn't the family's first deployment. They have two other children who served, and she's like, why is this deployment different than the others? And she's like, it just seems like we all react differently with each deployment. And, you know, I thought that was interesting.
Well, it would also fall into line with where the child was in the birth order. Is this the first son? Is he going into combat where the other deployments were more of muse or more safe deployments? Is there something about his relationship with the mother or the father that's different than the other children's relationship. Family dynamics can be very, very complicated. And it's never easy. It's just different and hard in its own way.
And I think opening up...
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
I was
Rob.
going to say opening up the conversation is probably even more difficult because nobody wants to be the first to bring up, let's talk about this. It's the same way when people want to talk about wills, I would think, isn't it, Jody? It's very difficult to bring up the subject of death sometimes to family members, but you got to write the will. So you got to talk to them about it.
There's this huge phase of denial, the stage of denial where if you don't talk about it, it's not really going to happen. And then if you do talk about it, oh my God, you're making it real. And in the making it real, you are flying in the face of the comforting denial. Mm-hmm. And that isn't fun. It isn't something that people want to talk about. It is a harsh reality, especially in the military world. You have to talk about this. You have to have the power of attorneys, the just in case, the what ifs, and those are very scary.
Well, and one of the things she wrote, sorry, Robin, this that I just wanted Jody to comment on. I know we're getting close to break, but she said, we're a military family. This isn't our first deployment. We should be able to do this easier than it is. And I would love you to comment on that, Jody.
Well, I think she's shoulding on herself. One of my no-nos is you never should on yourself, because putting shoulds is having an expectation that you're automatically failing. Every deployment is going to have its own issues, and to think that one's going to be easier because you've done it before just isn't fair, because life changes between deployments. Things happen in a family dynamic that changes between deployments. Maybe a family member is ill, or there's a risk that you won't see them again, or there's been a relationship change or a health scare. Anything and everything can affect each and every deployment. So shoulding on yourself and thinking, I should be up for this, I should be immune to this, it shouldn't bother me as much. It's just not a fair assessment. It's going to hurt regardless. It's going to be tough regardless.
We're going to keep Jody here until for the next segment. We're talking to Jody Bremer today, family therapist. On the other side of the break, let's talk a little bit about what families can do, maybe some helpful steps to break that ice, to be able to open up conversations. Because as a mother, I can only imagine the worst thing in the world is to let that child go over there and worry, oh my gosh, what if we left on bad terms? All of those things. Let's get it out in the open before they deploy, and open up everybody's hearts. We've got Jody Bremer with us today, and we'll have Stephen Boyd at the last segment of the show. We'll be back in a moment here on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Have you been laid off, fired, downsized, right-sized, or re-engineered out of a job? Are you unemployed or anticipate that possibility? Then tune in for Successfully Unemployed, hosted by Alan Sherwood, MBA, president of Sherwood Consulting Service. Successfully Unemployed will provide you a hope-filled and comprehensive approach to the job search process from an author who's experienced it all. Alan and his guests will cover all dimensions of a job search: physical tasks, mental attitude, emotional health, even one's spiritual perspective. All must be integrated in order for a person to be successfully unemployed so they can then be successfully employed. This show is designed to help you move forward from job loss to finding or creating more fulfilling work. For more on Alan Sherwood, MBA, and the show, check out his website, successfullyunemployed.com. Then join us for Successfully Unemployed with Alan Sherwood, MBA. Thursday nights at 8, 7 Central here on TogiNet.com. Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we are covering a very, very vital topic today, is how family, and particularly extended family, react in a deployment situation. And Dr. Jody Bremer has taught us that common feelings like fear, anger, grief, resentment, even excitement or relief, all these things can kind of, simmer in a cocktail of feelings within the family dynamic, and that it's really important to recognize that these exist. And she's going to give us some coping tools this segment with respect to that. But before we go back to Dr. Jody Bremer, I want to bring on veteran correspondent Stephen Boyd, because he has something to add with respect to the son of the family member that wrote in, who got rid of his longtime girlfriend before being deployed to combat. Stephen, you had some comments about that.
We can't hear him. Hello. Hello.
Oh, can you hear me?
There we go. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't about somebody that I knew. That was me that did that. I had broken up. I had told my girlfriend at the time that it'd probably be better if she saw other people and we just went our separate ways for the time being. And she was all upset about that. Sent her father over to threaten me that she was in love with me, et cetera, et cetera. And being in Vietnam, I didn't have the time nor the inclination to even write to family members. And just before I rotated back to the States, she Dear John'd me. And when I got back here, I think it was just a ploy to make me come and see her, and I didn't. And started receiving phone calls, hysterical phone calls from her, that she wanted me back. By that time, I'd already started seeing someone else. So, but to the point here is that a lot of the guys broke up with their girlfriends or just left it that, we're still friends, maybe we'll see you in a year, maybe we won't, and because it was easier on us.
Steve, this is Jody. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, because the Vietnam War was so different than the war today, and the availability we have for communication is so different, do you think that if you had had access to internet chats or phones the way that we do today, and the communication that our wives and girlfriends can have with the military members, do you think things would have been different?
Probably yes. I would say that was a definite yes. When we went out for months on end into the jungle and had no communications other than a chopper flying out to us and dumping rations on us every few weeks. And we never knew. We would get back in and we'd either have a pile of letters or we'd have no letters. So we were so literally isolated that we blocked out the states completely.
It made more sense for you to not have that dragging on you. And sometimes I wonder, again, this is Jody, I'm sorry, Sandra, but sometimes I wonder...
Oh, no, I love it. Go, please.
I wonder if the communication makes things better or worse. I think it's great for being able to stay in touch with loved ones. But then again, what I'm finding in my practice is that if the girlfriends or wives or families back home don't hear from somebody for a day or two, they get very upset, whereas back in Steve's day, it would be an entire deployment that it would go without contacting. And the truth is that our guys are over there doing this job, and sometimes the communication isn't going to be everything it could be, and some guys will be able to reach home, some people won't, and then it starts not fights necessarily, but it starts bickering amongst the ranks back home. You heard from your husband and I didn't hear from mine. Maybe he's having an affair or something like that. And the communication is great, but we still have to remember that this isn't just going to another base. This is going to combat.
Yes, and I think for single guys it is probably easier because and single men and women, I should say, because their spouse is at home taking care of the family, and that's where a lot of stress comes. I think about family stress. Okay, we've got to get the car fixed tomorrow. We've got to take it over. This isn't something that you can do from 8,000 miles away. So the stress, I think, is a lot more today. That it may add more stress than it did back in that time.
Absolutely. It really is the double-edged sword. When the service member is overseas or anywhere in a combat and finds out that their little one is running a fever or that their car needs to be repaired or that there was a break-in in the neighborhood, it leaves a sense of helplessness that adds on to the worry on top of just avoiding an enemy sniper gunshot, which is a whole level that you can't really imagine. But on the other hand, I've heard some remarkable things where our guys overseas who have pregnant women have been able to be patched in and do the visual phone thing where they can actually witness their children being born and be a part of it. And this is something that never existed before this generation.
Yes, and I think back of some of the comments that you just made. Thinking back when I was in actual combat situations, that's the only thing that you have to think about. You can't afford to be thinking some minor problem back home or even a major problem back home when your life is on the line, that you have to focus on what you're doing right then and there.
And
is it a lot of hurry up and wait or a lot of urgency followed by 90% boredom?
Yes, yeah. 3 minutes of terror, 23 and a half hours of boredom.
Wow.
And that's probably when the family members need to remember, too, that there are certain things that you do want to share when you get that Skype opportunity or that Facebook opportunity with somebody. But I think more and more families are remembering that their people have to do their job and that maybe they're not going, they'll share the details that are going to make them remember people are loving them back here, but not necessarily burdening them with the decisions that the family back home might need to be making.
I think that's a really good point. There's, again, that fine line between what is sharing the life so you don't feel disconnected and what is going overboard. And one of the things I recommend, coping skills, if you were, whatever, is to let people know what is kind of necessary to know. But, Steve, you can back me on this. One of the nicest things that I've heard our military men come back and say is, if something is going wrong, one of the best, most reassuring things I can hear from my spouse is, it's all being taken care of, or don't worry, I've got it covered. So you can say, the little one had a fever, or so-and-so fell out of a tree, or the car has the red light come on, but don't worry, honey, I'm on top of it. You're okay. I'm okay. I'm handling it.
Yes,
and
especially in past tense, it's already been fixed.
Even better. And then maybe add in a throw line like, can't wait for your home so you can take care of it.
Yes, yeah. It still rattles, but when you come home, you can tighten that up.
Jody, what do you think are some of those icebreakers that families, because obviously when people come back from a deployment, there's always that resettling and sometimes the angst of, I used to do it this way and now I have to do it that way because you're home. But you don't want these families to leave on a bad note. So what can families do, especially to include siblings, to include girlfriends, as far as opening that conversation up?
Understanding the limitations of communication is vital. For somebody back home to think, yay, I talk to you 1 time a week or 3 times a week is great. Not to expect, hey, I didn't talk to you 4 or 5 times a week, what's going on? So prepping both parties for the limitations is great, and therefore anything that you do get is icing. A Skype opportunity is icing. Covering things like Steve said in past tense is a wonderful way to make people feel connected, because you do want to share without burden. And again, a fine line. When people come back, we've got an entire other show on getting back together again, and the struggles and the trials of getting back together and reincorporating the missing member back into the family so they can feel like they are not displaced or not replaced in any way. But as far as prepping for that, you want to keep a calendar, knowing that the end in sight may never be the actual end, because as anybody in the military knows, it's just a suggestion to when they're coming home. You guys have experience with that, right?
Well, a lot of it today is these multiple deployments these veterans are going through. I mean, they'll come home for 6 months and then get shipped back over there again for another year or so. This is brutal. This isn't a 13-month tour, come home, gee, maybe I'll go back there in a couple of years. This is almost constant.
That's so difficult. Jody, we're going to wrap up this segment. It's wonderful to have your input, because I love the common sense approach that you have. Jody Bremer, we can find you at jodybremer.com. Is that correct?
Yes, jodybremer.com. Absolutely, JODYBREMER. And I am here for anybody. I'm in Southern California along with Sandra. And anything I can do, I'm here. I love coming on your show. Thank you, Sandra and Robin, for having me.
We will definitely have you back. I think we've already got you on the roster, so we'll let you know. On the other side of the break, we're going to continue with Stephen Boyd, and especially May being Military Appreciation Month, we've got some deals for you coming up after the break.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Get ready to live La Bella Vita with Dawn Catherine on TogiNet.com. Live La Bella Vita. If you're wanting to know all the beauty tricks of the trade and the latest fashion trends before everyone else, this is your show. If you admire celebrities' beauty and their fashion sense, this is your show. Do you love wine and want to know more about the process it takes to make wine from the vine to the bottle? This is your show. Live La Bella Vita. For more on the show and your host, check out our website, labellavitacosmetico.com. This is the kind of show you can sink your teeth into. If you enjoy traveling and food and family, all with an Italian flair, then you can live La Bella Vita. with your host, Dawn Catherine. Wednesday nights at midnight, 11 p.m. Central, on TogiNet.com.
Are you ready to start rocking that woo-hoo that only you do? Because Lisa Stedman is on a mission. She will dare you, challenge you, enlighten you, provoke, and empower you to bring out that inner woo-hoo. Lisa is an internationally acclaimed best-selling author. She is a breakup expert, a brand consultant, CEO of Woohoo Inc. and the Woohoo Radio Network. She will show you how to take your boo-hoo and turn it into woo-hoo. Get rebellious and get real. Get your dreams off the back burner. Get inspired and motivated to take action. Start rocking that woohoo that only you do in love, life, and business. She is going to be here for you every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, Military Moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd. And for those of you that missed the first 3 quarters of the show, you really need to go to iTunes under Military Mom Talk Radio. You can go to militarymomtalkradio.com or our host station, TogiNet.com, and pull up this broadcast, as well as many other broadcasts that cover everything from deployment to veteran benefits to what you need to know the first time you join the military. I mean, we've just got all sorts of information for the entire military family, and that includes friends and girlfriends and boyfriends. Now, without further ado, Rob, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, we had an author a while back, and I'll have to look up that name, that wrote a book specifically for siblings, remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, we've had over 100 and, I don't know, we're at 160 shows or something like that, and they're all 1-hour shows. I just can't remember it, but I'm so grateful. I'm just going to say this right now. I'm so grateful for all of you who download our shows, who take our shows to other places where there are broadcast and rebroadcast. We know from the letters you've written in that people are playing our show at coffee houses on base. They're sharing it. They're putting it on their iPod. And, Rob, when we set out to do this show, we set out to put information in the hands of the military family, and we've grown so much over the years. And one of those acquisitions that we've done in our growth was acquire veteran correspondent Stephen Boyd. I just love having him on because he's got such a great radio voice, and he always brings super information.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Steve.
And you married him, so how can you not like him?
Well, thanks, ladies.
Well, thanks. Okay, thrill us, entertain us, inform us. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, this week Robin had asked me to find out about some military discounts through different businesses and so on. Now, I explained on one of the previous shows that we've been doing some renovations on the house here, and Lowe's gives a 10% discount to veterans and active-duty military people. Now, Home Depot gives discounts, but they only give discounts not to all veterans, but they give them to active and reserve military people, and the only way a veteran gets a discount at Home Depot is if they have a disability, and that's put onto their veteran ID cards from the VA.
Okay.
Now,
what do you have to show for Lowe's? Like, you just go in and show your retired veteran?
Yeah, you just show your VA card, your picture ID card. It says the Veterans Administration's on it, and bang, 10% right off the top.
And
Oh, that's
Steve, you
great.
may want to remind listeners, especially for older veterans who might not have that card, you weren't aware of it until someone mentioned it to you. So
No,
tell our listeners.
They need to get in touch with their local VA office, and the VA will tell them where to go to get their card. There may be small regional offices, and they may have to go someplace, a big enough facility that takes the photographs. I got mine up at the VA hospital here in Manchester. The Veterans Administration main office is downtown in the federal building, but they sent me up to the local hospital to get mine. So they have to make a call and find out where they can get their card. Unfortunately, in a lot of parts of the country, it may take a ride to get to these places. So they need to check and see if they have trouble getting there, see if they can hook a ride with the DAV or one of the other organizations that may help them out.
Sure. And it's important to do it because now that you've had it, so many things just in our area have opened up for you. What are some of the other things you found online?
The best way to go on to is to go onto a search engine and check things out. Just type in veterans discount, and it seems that no matter which search engine I went on to, a couple of them really stood out. The first one is militaryandveteransdiscounts.com, and is A-N-D. Mm-hmm. And it shows a sign-up page. Now, I didn't go on to it to find out. The other thing is that the best way to go about finding if a company offers a discount is just ask.
Sometimes you can find it on their website.
Yes, some have it on their website. Now, the VA rep down at the unemployment office that I used to deal with keeps sending me information. He's a retired military man himself. Mm-hmm. And I've got a list here of restaurants, retail and apparel. Now, this list I downloaded from his website, and if you ladies can tell me how we can get this to people, that we possibly put it on one of the blogs or something, because it's quite a few here. Now, this one is particularly for people over seniors, so all you old veterans out there, this will be very helpful. Applebee's, Arby's, Ben & Jerry's, Bennigan's, Bob's Big Boy, Boston Market, and so on. Retail apparel, Banana Republic, Hallmark, Kmart, Kohl's, Model Sporting Goods, Rite Aid, grocery stores, travel. Amtrak gives a 15% discount for 62-plus people. So these are over and above being a military veteran.
Now, some of the websites we want to make sure to mention, there is often a membership. In fact, I actually was looking for something else today, and I hit on it, and they wanted you to become a member, which involves some kind of paying. And you should not have to be paying anybody to find out these things. These, if they are legitimate, they're going to be giving you the information, and whether their establishment gives the discount or not. Yes,
that's one of the things. The Military and Veterans Discount website, I didn't go on because you had to start logging in, and I didn't want to come to a page that said, surprise, give me your credit card so we can charge you $15. That you shouldn't have to do.
Right. Our guests last week, if you remember, Steve, was Troop Swap, and that's TROOPSWAP.com. Yes. And they were great as far as finding a lot of companies that they are in alliance with, so they will give discounts. You and I have both found that the best way to handle this is just pick up the phone before you make the trip to the store and say, do you give discounts?
Correct. And don't underestimate the goodwill of your local merchants. A lot of them are going to be veterans too. So, hey, do you give a military discount. What's your name? Sure, come on in. I'll give you 10% off.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is ask.
Right.
Always ask.
Yeah, there are a lot of, and I don't have the website right in front of me, but I know militaryconnection.com does have a section of their web that lists veteran businesses, and that's part of their Vamboa branch, VAMBOA.org. They have all veteran business owners, and we certainly want to make sure if you've got to do some price shopping, you might as well do some veteran shopping.
Yes. Now, I've got, I'm on the Google veterans discount that I typed into Google, and I've got at least 10 pages of discount places here.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds. There was one that I didn't get onto. One in particular is www.localveterandiscounts.com. Now, I haven't been on there yet. But this is for local businesses in your area, so it's probably something you type in your zip code, and they'll direct you to local establishments.
And with summer coming up, we want to make sure that people remember to call the bigger places, whether it be Universal or some of the bigger. I'm trying to think of the water slide place. They often have veteran discounts too. So we want to make sure as you begin to travel across the country for your summer vacation that you give some phone calls before you go. So that may, as you reported last week to us, Steve, going to the Smithfield Armory. It's Springfield, sorry. You want to make sure that you call, and maybe that'll change your route if you're driving.
Of course.
Steve, we want to make sure that we get you back on another episode, because we'd love to have you out there doing a little more exploring for us across the country. Can we have you back before too long? Oh, good.
Anytime.
Oh, good.
You're right down the hall from me. Anytime.
Okay, hon. I know right where to find you. Steve Boyd, it's always great to have you. Your insight is always so important for us.
Thank you.
Next week, we want to make sure everyone joins us. We have Linda Jefferson coming back, Go Army Homes founder. She's going to have lots of information for us. Growing establishment they have. We've got an author, Kristen Bayer. She wrote a darling book called Countdown Till Daddy Comes Home. We want to make sure everybody joins us for that segment. And then I'm excited to tell you we have Tom Young, author, renowned author, and you're going to recognize some of his books, The Renegades, Silent Enemy, Malaz Storm. Well, he has a new release out, and it is called The Warrior. So we're really looking forward to hearing about this new release and just chatting with him. When somebody has had so many books come out with such popularity, I always wonder how people get new ideas. I really am fascinated with authors who have so many stories in them, and everybody's got a story. And that's one of the things that we keep encouraging people to do on Military Mom Talk Radio, is to remember to just start writing your story, because every story is important. Make sure you tune in to us on iTunes. Make sure you catch us right here on the TogiNet station. We have our show page that has all of our podcasts. Don't start laughing, Sandra. I know you are. And right on Military Mom Talk Radio's show page. Please join us next week. We hope you have a great week out there. Enjoy the springtime. Take care, everyone.